Hi, and thanks for joining us for today's interview.
Thank you for having me.
So you've heard me perform Hold Me before, and one of the lyrics that I say in it is, "Mighty men have fallen from the eyes of grace, by the hands of evils that have divided us by race." What is the first thing that you think of when these lyrics are sang or say to you?
Racism.
Racism.
Okay, wait. So what are the...
Mighty men have fallen from the eyes of grace by the hands of evils that have separated us by race, or that divide us by race.
Okay. Then the first thing I'd obviously think about would be oppression or separation. The first thing I think of being South African is apartheid. How we did lose a lot of men due to the Boers, causing segregation within South Africa. The white people had the power, and they decided that they had all the power and the ability to separate us.
First thing comes to my mind, especially with that divide us by race part, I think basically what you're trying to say is that there's strong people, especially let me go straight into it, in the African American community and black community that are not acknowledged, and they're put down, and maybe in terms of mass imprisonment or incarceration of black people, they've fallen because of their race, and their race has made them not rise up to where they need to be. That's what I'm thinking.
I hear you. So
So the first thing that comes to my mind is obviously the veneration of great white men, especially in the US, that have done remarkable things, and at the same time you have to juxtapose all the great stuff they've done with the reality that, we live in a racist world, and racism is a thing that for the last couple of centuries has been the dominant, mode of categorizing people. And so it's hard to think of them in the good light without also seeing the negative, which is because of our racial differences. And so when I hear that, I'm thinking of not just those men, but also all the great men that could have been, that were not because of their skin color. And that's what I think of.
Humanity is and downfall of humanity.
elaborate, please.
Lack of unity, please.
First word I would say is oppression.
Oppression.
Yeah, it's really just a direct way of calling out the issues we're facing with race today, the issues we've faced with race back in the day, just race being a problem of oppression. So yeah.
I think of structural injustices. America. Colonizers. Power being turned into weakness, or at least camouflaged, and told that it's weak when it's not. That's
powerful. Let me hear you elaborate a little bit more on the structural.
Yeah. I think that there's, especially in America, I would say, there's a lot of the things that they do with their justice system that is so camouflaged in, this is meant to be structural, this is how justice works, but really it's, racist most of the time, if not all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that it just makes me think of all the potential that I guess a lot of nations could have had, because when it comes to race, obviously a lot of countries lost their best people, their most intelligent people. So yeah, it just makes me feel sad. Yeah.
A lot of lost potential, I'm hearing.
Yeah.
heard of intersectionality?
Intersectionality?
The concept of intersectionality, yeah.
No, actually.
Okay, so I'm going to try and define it to you and see if you think it works in your larger scheme of things, going back to apartheid that we mentioned. So intersectionality is the concept of, I'm going to define it in my own words just so it makes it easier, is the concept of systems working together to aid or help a person or do the opposite, basically. So for example, a black woman in America is a woman and she's black. So she has different levels of privileges and all of that than a black man, because he's a man and he fits into certain structures like what you call misogyny or patriarchy. So this,
my anthropology teacher will hate me for butchering this up. But what I understood it as is, you are not just whatever single fragment of your identity that you are. I'm black, but I'm also a black man who's straight, and there's a lot of different intersections of my identity that create who I am. And so I guess you can't simplify it to those basic identities, but at the same time, they are your identity factors that mean a lot in a certain context. Around a lot of white people, I'm very black, but around a lot of women, I'm very male. I'm very male. So it depends on the context where each identity exudes itself more, but you are made up of all of them. And you have to act like you are made up of all of them, because my struggles or my experiences as a black man differs from a black woman.
right.
Even though we experience blackness,
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. Can you define it a little bit, just for
Yeah. So, to my understanding, intersectionality is all your, I wouldn't say characteristics, but all the things that make you. So, your race, your ethnicity, your nationality, your background, where you're from, all these types of things when they come together, your gender. That's intersectionality, and how they have shaped you and how you interact with other people.
Right.
Well, intersectionality to me is essentially the meeting place that is basically where everyone and their different positionalities, like where it comes together. Like you could be like a black woman and disabled, and where those three things meet, that is the intersection.
Of all these different identities. Thinking about going back to apartheid and the racism that happened there in South Africa, like, do you see a connection between that system of oppression and, let's say, the world's systems at large?
Definitely, and I'll take it back to the apartheid thing, because looking at, there were a lot of white men back in South Africa that did want to see change, and I'm one to believe that without the help of some of those white men, without the power that they did have, we wouldn't be in the position we are today. For example, the freedom of Nelson Mandela was with the aid of the white male, and that's not only showing his white power, but his him being a male as well, so his masculine power, I guess. And I do see all of those being factors that do help us in this world, despite the world being unbalanced, that the power is still in the majority of the white man. End of the day, there are, I guess, some white men out there that are trying to see a change. I guess we're just at a point where there's less of them than those that don't want to see change.
That makes sense. And I'm hearing a lot of also, sometimes you use the systems in place to help aid those that are disadvantaged by the system. Okay. Going back to the potential, you spoke about how the lyrics trigger the thought of a lot of potential of a lot of countries and a lot of people that they didn't fulfill based on their different, I guess, intersecting intersecting identities. how would you? Let me ask this first. Is there an instance when you have felt that one of your identities either aided you or hurt you solely based on it? Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to helping me, I definitely think I benefit from a lot of things. Like, I benefit from being conventionally attractive, I guess, from being light-skinned, from being super able-bodied. So, but then when I guess the opposite would be, I think a lot of times when, I don't think that I've suffered a lot. I personally think I'm one of the people who have not been affected a lot by it would probably be only being a woman that is the most, I would say, because like a lot of times just men don't think I have anything to contribute. Like they somehow think they're cleverer than me. I'm like, that's embarrassing. Yeah.
Okay.
It's tough. Here at CFI, definitely. There's been many moments where just being, not even being just black, just being an international student, that's one of the identities. Being an international student has been a disadvantage, and not getting what you need to get, and also just being black, being a black woman. I think my main example is, like, for example, with Senate, the student Senate here, like, just being an international student, they wouldn't even want to read through your orders probably. As long as you say ISO or international student on it, it's just, no, we're not going to do that. You know, that type of thing. Like, it's just putting that identity out there. Sometimes it's like, it feels like it's better to go into things like blind, like don't even like identify the person, just put out the facts before you identify. And then I feel like you get shit done. But then like, it's hard to do that sometimes because some situations are very specific towards that identity, and you need to put that identity out there to explain your situation properly. So I don't know. I think also there's been moments like in classes where like just trying to give a point and people don't take your point because, let's face it, because I'm a black woman, I am an international student, people don't think I speak English, so they're not going to understand my point. But if someone else right next to me says the exact same thing, that is a great idea, you know? So I find it crazy.
An example I'd like to give is, for instance, UWC. I like how when UWC students first get to the college, everybody has their flag and everybody's asking, which country are you from? Which country are you from? You gave me. And then you state a country and then you already notice, even regardless of knowing these people for 2 seconds or not knowing them, you already notice that when someone says Georgia, when someone says Zimbabwe, when someone says I come from Germany, there's already a difference, regardless of they know the person, they don't know, there's already a difference, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah.
So they do treat you differently, unfortunately. That's just how it is.
Cool, yeah, that's...
Fair enough. I guess there was, this is probably a really trivial example, but growing up in Mafikeng, it can get humid during like some summer months, especially when it rains a lot, so it gets humid. And it can get hot, you know. And I used to go to a school where you had to wear a uniform. So during the summer, our uniform had to be pants and short sleeve maybe, long sleeve maybe, a tie, you know, and sometimes a blazer, sometimes not. You didn't have to, or a jersey. And my sister would get to wear the skirt, right? And I didn't understand why I couldn't wear a skirt, even though I knew why, you know. I knew that it wasn't for boys, you know, like, it wasn't for boys. But I really wanted to wear a skirt and, like, just be chill, you know. I thought, like, honestly, I need some air over here. It's warm, sitting in class is stuffy, and who am I hurting? And it made me, like, I don't know, it made me resent the fact that I had to be a guy only for the rest of my life, you know, and I could never experience, I don't want to say the benefits of being a woman, like wearing a skirt or whatever. And I also thought about like makeup and that other stuff. And I could never experience all that stuff. That's sad. And it took some growing up to realize, you know, it's interesting why I can't wear a skirt.
Right.
You know, it's very interesting why I can't wear a skirt.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's one of those small moments where I'm like,
status quo.
Status quo.
There's so many actually. I'll start with like the easiest factor. I'm a black woman in America, where it's really just difficult to live every day because you don't know who's going to hurt you for what reason. I always talk about it. I'm like, it's so difficult for black women because we really fight two battles. Because you fight the battle of gender, you fight the battle of race, because we're really at the bottom of the social hierarchy. And let's not even talk about those that are black women and queer, you know? So there's that. I've faced oppression in the sense that I was a black woman in the wrong place in the wrong time. Back at home, they think that, oh, if everybody's black, we have it easier. No. Let's not forget that I'm still a woman. I face oppression because I am a woman. I face... Sometimes I even face it at home just because I am a black woman. Because sometimes being darker skinned is troublesome or it's difficult. So, yeah. I don't want to go too much into detail. I don't want to be crying on camera. Right. Yeah.
I hear
it's
you.
Just... You get assaulted, you get fought, you get bashed, you get bullied because you are a black woman.
I guess there's one that could work for being hurt and helped. Being hurt, being a black woman is not easy. Maybe from where I'm from, it's not as hard as it is being here. So being from Eswatini, if most of us are black anyway, there isn't much racism that exists. It's there because we're so close to South Africa and apartheid times. But being here, it's a different situation, especially because I'm specifically an African woman, right? So I think sometimes I experience racism in classes, moments where we're having social settings like parties and all of those types of things. I feel like being black kind of makes me feel alienated. And the way that they act, there's a lot of subliminal racism that is in the school, especially. That's a time when it's hurt, but it's ironically a time when I felt the most powerful because I feel like they're threatened by me being a black woman. That's just
and
that.
being who you are. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well said. My final question. You've spoken about it a little bit in your description of Senate and all that. You said like bringing ideas forward. It would be sometimes nice to like detach it from your identity so that you bring it forward objectively and people don't attach it to your identity. That's one of the ways I think you can say we can change the way that things are done and the way that identities are tied to people and they disadvantage them. What are other ways you think like we can collectively as a society help make it a reality that these identities don't disadvantage us as much as they do?
Applications. You know how when you apply for stuff and then it asks you a race. Why do I have to say what race I am? Or my gender? You know, like it doesn't make sense. Because what does that have to do for you? You know? Just as read my application for like a job, for a scholarship, for anything. Just read my application as it is. Forget about my race, forget about my gender. And then when you interview me, or you know, that's when you'll find out. Because I feel like if you, especially companies that do like those, they have steps, those processes when they're doing like hiring, when they start by reading the application, then they do interviews, and then they do this. If that first process of just reading that application didn't include gender or race, I feel like it will make things a little bit easier. I mean, they still have a chance to say no once they see you, but then like it's harder for them to be like, actually no, just by seeing your face, but like by reading and seeing that you're qualified for stuff. Like, I'm not gonna say this is exactly the case, but for example, like the Gibson's Honors program here at the college, sometimes you see people who apply. A lot of people can apply for it. You can apply for it right in your sophomore, freshman year. And some people who get into that program, you look at yourself, you compare other people that applied, and you're like, how did this person get in and this one didn't? Yet this person has done a lot more for the college, or this person has good grades.
They fit all the criteria.
They fit all the criteria. What's the one thing that's different? It could be your race or your gender. So.
Man, how do we solve the world?
Yeah,
no, but I get you. I mean, I think that we have to give each other the benefit of the doubt. You know, we can't label everything everyone does up to malice, they're just evil, because that stops us from engaging with them. If you think someone's evil, you don't want to engage with them.
Right.
And I think we need to engage with people. We need to talk. And it's boring saying that everyone says we need to talk to each other, which we don't do. We really don't talk to each other. We think we're talking to each other when we do things, but we're echo chambering.
Right.
We find like minds, and we love to stick together. Fair enough. It's safe. It feels comfortable, but we definitely do need to talk to people and have those uncomfortable discussions with people who radically think different to you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously be safe, but I think that's the only way we can, because if they don't know, I don't know how we can change their mind. I think that it's funny how recent integration was, and how also recent all the slavery and all the segregation was. And you realize that, we have such a long way to go. It was so recently that we started being around each other. Yeah. So recently that we started, having sex with each other, And so recently that we started thinking, we could have lives together and melange. And I understand the backlash, It's very new and people don't know. People don't like new, except when it's nice new,
Yeah, change is very difficult.
Yeah, change is hard.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to talk.
Mm-hmm. I actually spoke about this a few weeks ago. It was we were talking about the critical race theory and how it all boils down to the youth. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big believer in what's next, and I believe the youth is what's next. Mm-hmm. So we need to start building a proper foundation, which is I'm not going to say providing the right education, but a better education of different races, about educating the children about what happened, and then show them, yes, there were some bad sides, yes, there were some good sides, but you have to look at the bigger picture. The one disadvantage I see with that, though, is the people that teach them, because obviously you can go to school, you learn one thing, then you go home and you'll be taught another. So I don't know the actual solution, but I would definitely say it has to be educating the youth and starting afresh, in a sense.
I think that it's okay to have difference, and it's okay to maybe slightly personally have preferences. But I just think that when it comes to getting things done, it doesn't really matter who you are. It just matters that you can get the job done. Mm-hmm. So I think people should stop being using arbitrary things to judge other people, especially when it comes to things that matter. When you employ people, why the hell would you care what color they are? That's a bit weird. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's giving high school. So,
honestly, as individuals, or at least at the base, we can only do so much, right? And that's just educating each other. So I think what I've learned is, in a school setting especially, some people just don't know what they don't know, right? It's as simple as when people think Africa's a country. I don't get mad anymore. I used to, because I'm you're uneducated, right? But then it's yeah, they are uneducated. Then educate them, right? And that's at the base level. But honestly, most of the problems are all at the top, right? The structure, the way it is. If they could rewrite the Constitution, then maybe something could be changed. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, a lot of the women whose children are taken away from them to foster homes and stuff, that's mostly for black women. You don't see white women having their children taken away into foster homes, right? A lot of the times, the structure is against black men in the country. So there's a lot of the things that are problematic towards the top than they are at the bottom. But obviously, as individuals, all we can do is educate each other and hope that people really want to know.
Thank you very much. That was what do you think are some of the ways that we can maybe bridge the unity gap that is lacking?
I feel like the reason why the unity gap is made is because people tend to feel like they're different. But then it's not that we're different. We're just like different puzzle pieces making one puzzle piece. It's not that we're different. I'm not different from you. You're not different from me. We're all the same, but like we act in certain ways in us to achieve, and we have to be a bit. We can't be the same person. You get me? So I feel like in order to achieve like a world of unity, people should just forget about differences. Not in the sense where like you have to what do you call this? Reimburse? Like paying back reparations exactly. Like not in terms of reparations, but I feel like in order for a world to move forward and in order to achieve unity at the point where we are right now is to just forget about anything and just say all debts from the past are obsolete and now we start new and nothing is different and we're all working towards one goal. That's how. But
and not bank on the things of the past that helped separate.
Because they only further. People might say it's analyzing to like understand people, but like it only further separates. It's only been further separating us until this point. It really hasn't been joining us, to be honest. If someone says otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's your opinion.
Just be genuinely you. There's no other you.
And like, people will connect with the genuineness.
Right. So before people are like, oh hey, Z, which Z? The black girl? Nah. Z, the loud one. Oh, Z, the one with the red hair. I as much as I love being black, I don't want that to be the only like identifying factor. I don't want to be Z the black girl. I can be Z the black girl because that I am Z the black girl, but Z, what else? What about Z the star?
Yeah, so people shouldn't think about it one-dimensionally, right? Because you have all of these other identities. Yeah,
right.
And I agree, that would help lessen all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was my last question for you. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you
for sharing
for
your
having
last
me.
question, Nikki. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much for coming to join us.
Thank you. I very much appreciate.
We're blessed to have heard your words. Very insightful conversation, Esther. Thank you for coming to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's all of my questions.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining. Is there another oppressive system that you wish to shed light to in this moment, to speak about, or something that you feel you've been affected by, or that you feel somebody close to you has been affected by?
So, yeah, maybe not something different, but it would just be like black people. So for example, back home, I am mixed race, which here is not identified as that. You are black. And at home, I'd walk into a building, oh, there's not a mixed race kid. Doesn't matter. Here you walk in, you're still seen as black. So that's just one, like, it's the idea of differences and cultural understanding that we need to like try and adapt, because when you see things in only 3 shades, being black, white, or Hispanic, it doesn't really get the system anywhere. Instead of grouping us all into one category, we need to learn that there are like different people out there that go by different means, different races. And so I just want to bring to light the idea of being different and understanding cultural differences.
If the world wasn't set up for white people, would all these white CEOs exist, you know? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe not, you know?
Right.
What would we be seeing? And the fact is, we are living in this timeline, you know?
So we can't
know.
We can only speculate.
We can always speculate. And I think that's the fun thing about being human, you know? I think one thing no one can take away from you is your imagination. And we can imagine a world in which, you know, it's not set up for a specific person. It's, you know, we're trying to uplift everyone, no matter how non-conforming you are to society or whatever that is.
Right.
We can still live with everyone, you know, because that's what we try to do. No one's the same, and I think what we're trying to do is live with our differences, you know. So not trying to make everyone the same.
Connecting back to intersectionality, do you think there's certain other aspects that that make them fall even more, if we would say?
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be your race, your sex, your sexuality, your background, your financial status, your, you know, all those things will make depending on where you are in life. Because you can be a rich black man, you still won't be above a rich white man. But you'll definitely be above a poor black woman. You know, females are more disadvantaged. Low income backgrounds are more disadvantaged. So I think it's really a combination of a lot of things. But at the end of the day, there's still that that line where no matter if you have everything stacked towards you, but then if you're black or if you're of a different race, you're not going to pass that line.
I hear you. Okay, yeah, thank you for that.
I also think that I'm going to say something controversial.
Go ahead.
But I think that like white people need to because we've heard it. They're everywhere. Did you know that like 80% of the thing on the internet, of content on the internet, is in English? Like, just say nothing. If you're from a predominantly, especially Western culture, we've heard it all. You're in every show. You're in every book. We're tired. We need more perspectives, and then we'll find more solutions. Because we're obviously using different brains. I mean, different upbringings, whatever. You know, people with different experiences. So I think that they should just say nothing for a while, maybe 20 years.
Yeah.
And then
let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then let other people catch up.
Yeah.
For a bit.
Yeah.
And then we can just see where we go.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense because the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was all the questions, Fifi. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And thank you for stirring the pot a little bit.
Duh.
Powerful.
That's me.